There's two main components that really rub me the wrong way with the hourly billing model. One is it pits you against the client, right? You want to bill the most hours possible. The client wants you to bill the least hours possible. So right away, there's a relationship of conflict that's created the moment that they become a client. The second component is that you're essentially incentivized to be inefficient, because the only way you bill is if your attorney or your paralegal are doing work. So there's no incentive for you to find somebody who's really inexpensive that's perfectly capable of doing some of the work to go and do it, because you can't bill that, right? Or you can't make as much money when they're doing that work. The attorney holds on to stuff that does not need to be the attorney doing it, because the attorney bills more than the paralegal, right? And those things are not happening because you're unethical. They're not happening because you're intending to defraud your client. They're happening subconsciously because that's the business model that you adopted. And so much of what we create is based on our own experiences and how we stepped into the creation of our law firm, which is, this is what I saw someone else doing, right? This is what I saw when I was working for someone else. So this is what I think is the only thing that's possible. So Margaret, I want you to just broad strokes talk about your thoughts on the overall model for law firm owners. And I mean, barring a few types of practice areas or like trial attorneys or attorneys that do spend a lot of time in litigation, where there really is a much harder way to quantify the value of the service you're going to provide, basically everything else can be done differently. What are your thoughts on this? How do you think that a law firm owner should approach thinking about their business model? And I mean, do you agree with what I was sharing, or are you at odds with that?
I completely agree with what you just shared. And it actually circles back to our earlier conversation about compensation models. So attorneys can be rewarded for their billed hours, and they can be penalized perhaps if their billed hours are lower. So that right there is incentivizing an attorney that bills hourly to bill a lot of hours. And it does create conflict with the client. A firm can have a client that's very happy with the service, and not unusual to get the final bill, and that client, a month passes, suddenly doesn't have a great feeling anymore about the service, because they noticed that maybe they were billed for a phone call when they felt as though, gee, we also talked about our family and children. Did they bill me for that? It just creates a lot of conflict and questions. In addition, right now, like legal tech is becoming much more popular. Thank goodness. It's actually an exciting topic. There's a lot of opportunities for firms to be very efficient. Many law firms that perhaps even 5 years ago weren't embracing, CRMs and technology and all the other tools out there are now embracing it. It's a topic that comes up often. So as firms invest resources, time, and money into this technology, how wonderful is it that they can reap the rewards by billing? I'll call it value billing. Like, what expertise and value are you giving your clients, and pricing along those lines versus the hourly rate? Because if you bill hourly and you've also invested in technology and tools, you're not reaping the rewards of those efficiencies, someone else is. So how wonderful is it to invest, become efficient, provide very high value service, and price your services on your value versus the hourly rate? And then from the client perspective, if you have a business client that has an event, they're more likely to call you if they know they're not being charged every time they call you. And you can likely save that client a lot of headache and money just by that person calling you proactively and sharing something that they weren't sure whether or not they should be concerned. And I've seen that. I've seen firms where clients didn't call them, and then something turned into something much bigger, litigation, which, as we all know, can be a very costly, emotionally and financially experience. They could have avoided it by calling their attorney early on. And so I agree completely that the hourly, yes, there's some exceptions, but as a general baseline, I think firms that are looking at value billing and other ways to gain a profit and be successful financially are benefiting from alternative arrangements.